probes from all the other planets. So what you'll see is cigar shape arrive, lots of little white lights go into it, and then it'll go. Now that's been seen on hundreds of occasions in this world. So they do come here. There are some that are still of the belief that they should come in eclipsed to us by the sun, so that we can't see them, and then send the probes out to all the other planets, and including the Earth, but not be seen by the Earth, because they think that there's a certain protocol they have to do, is that when a planet with life on it gets to a certain stage in its development, they then arrive and give you all the transmission protocols for all the motherships, because there's a universal language basically, and a universal way of communicating with everything. But we haven't got anything here that could possibly benefit another. You know, we're a curiosity basically, and because we've had 4 mass extinctions, we're way behind all them. We're way behind. As I said the other day, there's one which hasn't had any problems whatsoever and is right out here. Then there's a whopping great group of 400 and odd in the middle, a few sort of odd ones ahead of us, ahead of them, and then we're right back here somewhere, because we've had 4 mass extinctions, so we haven't been able to get. Now some people are, now I'll use that as another subject. I was going to say that some people think that we've been influenced by aliens and that we've been crossed with them and all sorts of things. That's all coming up. I'll tell you. And there's religion. You know, I pretty much know. Like probably, you know, some people aren't going to like what I've got to say because it's they're going to look stupid basically. So there's religion. How it does do its job, religion, but is completely fake. It's basically made up by the first thinkers to control the population, and it's done its job by making people not, you know, people used to, if you walk past somebody with a loaf of bread 3,000 years ago, you knocked him on the head and ate it. You know, that's it. Stopped all that. It made people good, but is now gone way beyond its usefulness. Although it's still producing good people, it's producing bad ones too. So there's that, but that's coming up. So I'm going to do a quick diagram. You got disc, north, south. Oh. Yeah, so we've got north, south, all the way around. South, north. Now, that's the same on the top disc. And as they pass each other, obviously contra-rotating, they're going to pass each other at twice the speed. So you only need the discs run up to half the necessary speed, because they will pass each other. So when you get to the bottom disc and the top disc with north, you get north sent out. Then there's a gap, which is when it returns back to south. As it gets to south, there's a gap there. South, gap, north, gap, all the way around like that. So basically, you're sending out and all the norths at the same time. So you get a north pulse, square wave, south pulse, north, south, at millions of times a second. So that's that. And inside of this, if I do one side, I'll do the actual body itself. So here you'd have disc 1, and then you'd have disc 2, there's a gap, disc 2, magnets on there, magnets fixed to the hull. So north, south, north, south. There's a lot of other, because in the middle somewhere there's something like this. whether you can see that. I'll put it out close in a minute. Something like that with magnets on. And they're to hold the disc in the right place. Now, also, here, there's electromagnets. And they work to move the discs closer to each other or away from each other. So when they're moving closer on this side, they're away from each other on that side. So it has the effect of tilting the disc. If you do that quickly, that craft that's sitting with nothing attached to nothing is going to want to disappear in a direction. That's your directional speed. So I'll just take this lens off and show you, see if I can get that up a bit closer. Can you see that? Yeah, so all around the top and bottom disc, north, south, north, south, north, south, all the way around with a gap. So that when all the norths line up, you get a north pulse. When all the souths line up, you get a south pulse. Now, I'm pretty sure that these discs, they'll be fixed magnets because there was nothing to suggest that there was electricity being transferred to these discs. Because these discs are just held there by magnetic fields. They're spun up. I don't know whether there's anything in the top half of the UFO to electricity to keep them spinning, electric wise. So I don't know if there's any electric, you know, all I saw was, obviously it was seriously complicated and I didn't have long to really take it all in. So I can't really tell you. But I'm just hoping, the reason why I'm saying this, is I'm just hoping there's somebody out there who will understand what I'm talking about and either try and build it or prove me wrong or whatever, or have their suddenly get a light bulb idea and say, yes, I know, you know, I know what he's talking about, because obviously I'm not that a clever person, and I was confronted with all these diagrams and that I asked for. I said give us a top view and a side view and all that, and but I just couldn't remember. But there's your discs. And those ones around the outside were also used by the mothership to spin the disc as well, just by like you would a maglev train, you know, which you've already got. But you know, compared to the transport system I'm going to talk about, when you see transport written there, that is amazing because it's just basically tubes. And the buggies that you sit in are, the only moving part is the door. There's no other, not like our sophisticated cars or electric cars with tons of electronics and wheels and rubber and stuff like that. These are just literally one piece unit with a door. They're not, you know, they're not built up one atom at a time like this thing was with electronics in. Nothing like that. These are just look like metal and with a door for you to get in. So you got in it, sat in the seat. The mobile device held by the person was this is the example of on a planet, but I won't talk about it anymore because you'll get it here. There's one planet that they were talking about that's got a lot of things on it which would be relevant to us. So that's what I'll be talking about, because I obviously had, we went off this subject pretty quick, and obviously by that time I had a lot of other questions to ask, so I you know, I carried on. I didn't know how long I was going to be there, or whether somebody's going to turf me off, because I was on a military range. And that's another thing, why do they choose military ranges? Basically because there's nobody there. That's one reason. And they obviously want to know how advanced we are and how advanced our warfare is too. Which is another reason for the motherships coming in behind the sun. Because some planets, even though they might have long gone, the defence systems they left on other planets in their solar system still operate. So, you know, that's another reason for knowing how far advanced our weaponry is. But eventually, when this comes to the country system here, which I'm going to do one on the country system, you'll see how that's all irrelevant. We don't need any of that at all. Basically, because our military is there to protect the country. None of the other 450 planets have got countries. Everyone's allowed everywhere. You've still got your identity. You came from a certain area, but you're not a citizen of that area. Because obviously you didn't have any choice whether you were born there or not. So you can't say you built it up and you made it for yourself. You know, it's like saying, oh look, I'm standing on this carpet. This carpet's mine. I live here. This is the best carpet in the world. You know, you just can't say that, which is what people do for their country. So obviously we're programmed over years and years of being told that we should be good citizens and all that, you know. But on these other 450 planets, no country system, no money. So if a country's got resources here, they're suddenly worth money and you have to defend them, like oil. We know that America goes in by the back door to get oil, doesn't it? You know, gets control of people's oil by the back door, or sometimes by the front. So, but with no money and no country, you only take it out when you need it. When somebody asks for a gallon of petrol, somebody goes and produces it and gives it to them. That's it. No messing around. CCTV. Nobody on a Sunday anyway. Yeah, so I think how far have we got? Yeah, we're into the second half hour, so this is going to be a two-part one again. So I might as well carry on. So yeah, we've got the two discs spinning in. This is all. There has to be space here for the discs to move up and down in the magnetic fields. So when they're rotating, somebody wants to change direction, they'll tilt like that. And obviously it's either going to go wham, or I don't know which way, wham. I'll have to get a gyroscope and then check it. But yeah, nobody's ever done a gyroscope, one with two discs, one spinning one way, one the other yet. I'd like to see what kind of effect that has. Maybe that can be an experiment for somebody out there. So yeah, top half. I did the top half yesterday. It was just like that, sitting on top of the thing. Square hole through the middle. That's, if you can imagine that, that's door open. When you turned it, the doorway went to one side, because this is round, and that became shut. And because it obviously built one atom at a time, it's going to be an absolute seal. So yeah, there's that. And obviously in our atmosphere, that's pressed down hard against the hull here and here, and all round, so it forms a seal there too. They didn't say that, but I'm thinking it. So there, yeah, there's a block on the side there. Bit of information about that block. If you sat on it for more than half an hour, it would start moulding itself to your own bottom. So whatever sat there, be it an animal or whatever, this block, which looks like part of the hull and looks metal, basically starts moulding itself to the shape of your bottom, which I found incredible. That was good. So yeah, there was that. But that's really all. In here, I'm taking it, any electronics necessary, if it is electronic. I didn't ask that question, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's got air sampling equipment in there, stuff to control the disk. Communication, that was one thing. Some of the really complicated questions I asked, that system didn't have the answer in there, so there'd be a big delay while it transmitted to the mothership and back again. Now, I understand that transmissions to be a much smaller particle than even you know, I think I'm not sure what our radio aerials here send out. It's a wave, isn't it? Well, this is the absolute smallest possible wave, but I don't know, I certainly didn't feel any effects from it, so I don't know. But basically, unless it was relaying between all the other probes, I don't know. But so we'll see. Yeah, but basically, like I say, on our Voyager spaceship, we've got a plaque. On some of them we've got a gold disc with everything about the Earth on it. This is pretty much the same, but gets updated from all the other motherships. Because when I get to the mothership section, I'm going to tell you about them passing data between each other. So, which is quite important, because that way everyone that's on the same protocol gets all the information. And if there's any developments in, for instance, creating these probes, then that information gets sent to, and when they need to build a new probe, because these probes do get left behind, you know, occasionally, which people say there's been crashed stuff on this Earth, but they wouldn't get anything from that, because you can't take these things to pieces. They're built one layer at a time, one atom thick, you know, without any nuts and bolts. There's nothing to go wrong on these. And obviously they've been upgraded and upgraded and upgraded, because the mothership, the 3D printer, if you like, on that, you know, and we've got 3D printer that prints with one stylus, do one dot at a time, but those is a big matrix, and the whole matrix is moving, and you know, but I'll tell you about that anyway, because that's quite a complicated thing. So yeah, so that's when a mothership, which I'll tell you about motherships anyway, will produce beings to go and collect, or produce a machine to go onto a planet and go and find certain ores and minerals and things. But there's also, one of the great dangers we have is the mining, the huge mining ships they send out. Now basically these are just sent out. They get information from the other motherships about composition of planets, and they go there, mine a whole load of stuff, and they don't care what's there. Some of them, you know, some of them are, they've sort of gone into standby mode, and they don't care what's there. They mine whatever it is. It doesn't matter what's on the surface. They just mine what they want, and then make it into a huge skyscraper-sized pellet in space, put a motor on it, and send it back in the direction that they've calculated their planet that needs the minerals is, whether they still exist or not. So you do get these huge, colossal, but you'll know when one comes because it's square. So it'll be a square looking asteroid, so you'll know that it's made by a machine and not by something that's broken off something else, like the asteroids we get in this solar system. Now I mean, the other problem we've got is that obviously the universe is expanding, and we're getting further and further away from everything else, which is why we don't get so many visits from whole fleets. We're just now getting the back end of probes, really, and soon there won't be anything. We'll just be too far away, basically. So yeah, so we need to get the information off of these things. And I said, has anyone else been in one of these probes like this? And yes, there's been quite a few people. And yeah, you can usually tell who's done it by they suddenly come out with a lot of things which are ahead of their time, away into the future. Like, is it Da Vinci with his helicopter? Or is it, no, not Archimedes. A few of the other people who have, you know, that helicopter that he made would have worked on another planet with low gravity and high concentration of gases. That thing with the sail in a spiral would actually have worked. Now, some you know, might suggest that he's seen that on a screen like my screen and tried to reproduce it. So we don't know who's actually been in and who hasn't. Another thing, in the Bible somewhere, somebody went away for 40 days and 40 nights and was taught. That appears to have been, he appears to have got to the probe thinking it was his God or whatever, and watched the screen. And he came back with all these ideas. So, yeah. So things like that, they advance us. Which is why, you know, I could have kept quiet about all this. But now I'm going to share it, and hopefully it's off my mind, and hopefully it helps somebody. And if anybody wants to run with any of this, it's all copyright free. Which there'll be a lot more to show you yet. This is just the probe at the moment. And, you know, the probes can be, depending on who's turned up, slightly different. There'll be a lot of different, that's why we've seen, there's a whole chart of different shaped flying saucers people have drawn and people have seen. And we videoed now. So, but again, if you notice, they're all explainable, in inverted commas, and that's because they know that, you know, they're not that daft, and they know that there'll be people on the planet who'll diss it, and it'll be that unsure that they think they'll just think it's a nice story, and rather than a real thing we have to worry about, you know. But 99% of probes that come to this planet are only here to gather samples, have a look around, and then they're gone again. They already know about our planet and they're just really updating and then sending that data off to the next, to all the other motherships in the area, and they'll relay it on. And I'll tell you how they transmit, or how my interpretation of how they transmit over great distances. Again, this is why CERN is looking for the wrong stuff, looking for the wrong signals, looking for radio signals, and it's not radio signals we need to be looking for. There's that, so that'll be in the transmission section. We have transmissions here, I think I'll put that in, I don't know. So yeah, so how far we got? 20, that'll do, I think. Yeah. So right, thank you very much, and I think the next section is the mothership and how that operates. But that's quite simple, really. It's not how difficult you think, you know. Compared to this, is actually quite simple. This is quite, well, that's only got two moving parts. All that business with all the magnets and things, I know roughly how it works, and I know probably how we could build it. That's another thing. We need somebody to talk to. You know, I need people to talk to iron this out, because it's all up here somewhere, and it would help us to save. You know, these. You know, when I see a SpaceX launch, for instance, I think it's great. All that lovely noise, all that smoke, and I think, my God, that they really are barking up the wrong tree. You know, it's the same as the space tether. There's a couple of really easy ways to build a space tether, which I saw, and the diagrams for that were quite easy, so even I could understand them. So, but I'll show you all that on here. Space tether, that's a good one, because you can get stuff up into and build all your satellites and send them off without sending rockets. I know the rockets are okay now because they're running on hydrogen and oxygen and it produces water. But I certainly wouldn't allow to drink a cup of water that came from gases from a SpaceX. So I don't know. But yeah, the life star, that's another section. Most planets, we've got the space station, but what they've done, they've added and added and added and added to it, layers at a time, until they've built the escape star. And that's for when your planet is in imminent danger of being basically unusable, i.e. might be because you're being there's something on collision course that's too big to deflect. The sun getting bigger, that's that always happens when it cools down. There's lots of, there's about 100 different things that could stop us on this planet, and as you know, there's too many of us. So I can tell you what they did in other planets. Some of them were pretty drastic, others weren't, to prevent this problem. What have we got? I'll give you your money's worth, 26. I think so. This will be 2 half-hour videos, because this camera splits everything up, and I don't do any editing. I don't do any of this flying on the screen and going, "Hello, everybody," you know, "Welcome to so and so," you know. I can't do all that. This is basically fact, and I can't. I'm not messing around with that. So this is all. You know, I really don't care if anyone believes it or not. I've just got to get it off my head, off my chest. So there you go. Thank you very much.